this week we're going to be performing 4 different stains. So we're going to have to be very efficient and make sure that we have all our supplies organized. We're going to see a lot of different stains that look the same and sound the same, but we want to make sure that we're using the correct stain at the correct time, because of course if you don't, you're going to end up with the wrong result. So the first stain that we're going to do is the acid-fast stain. So this one begins on page 41. Now, some bacteria, like the bacteria that causes tuberculosis and leprosy, are examples of bacteria that are acid-fast. That means that even when they're washed with acid, they're still going to retain their primary color. If you refer back to the Gram stain, which was a different type of differential stain, which differentiated between gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, our decolorizing agent was either acetone alcohol or just regular alcohol. In our acid-fast stain that we're doing today, we are going to decolorize with acid alcohol. Okay, so that's going to be one of the differences. Now, I have my supplies here, and I'm going to go ahead and do it on this tub so that you can see better rather than doing it on the sink. And I do have my friend here, Albert, to keep an eye on me, so I thought I'd keep him in the background. Okay, so my supplies for this I have to have what's called carbonyl fusion, so that's our primary stain. Okay. Now later we're going to see something called acid fusion, so make sure you don't get mixed up between carbonyl fusion and acid fusion. Our decolorizing agent, like I mentioned before, is the acid alcohol, and then our secondary stain, or our counter stain, is going to be, in this case, methylene blue. Now, with the Gram stain, the positive cells were purple and negative cells were pink or red. At the end of the acid-fast stain, the positive stains, the acid-fast positive cells are going to be red, and the negative cells are going to be blue. So don't ever cross over between stains. Don't think that purple always means positive and red always means negative, because in this particular case, red actually means acid-fast positive. Now, this acid-fast, these acid-fast bacteria are that way because they have a waxy coating in their cell wall called mycolic acid, and they're permeable to most stains. So you could do a Gram stain on them, and they probably look positive because they retain that primary stain, but you wouldn't be able to classify them as acid-fast. So they can't be stained by normal means for a diagnostic purpose. Okay? So for this, we have our slide, and if you look on the first step, on page 41, it says prepare and fix a smear, just like we did before. Remember, if it says prepare and fix a smear, you'll go back to the procedure that you did at the beginning of preparations of smears and stains. Okay? So remember, that means you put the bacteria on, you let it dry, and then you heat fix it. That has to be done unless you're told differently. And we'll see that today, that there are times where we're not going to do that. Okay? So I've already put the bacteria on the slides. I've already let them dry, and I've already heat fixed them. Okay? Now I'm ready to do the staining. So now we're going to move to page 42. Okay? This is where the staining procedure is. So the first one is, you're going to see a little bit of a difference. It says put the carbonyl fusion on and allow it to sit for 5 minutes. Okay? Now let me take you back. I said that the acid-fast cells have a wall that is impermeable to most stains. So instead of putting it on for 30 seconds, we're actually going to let it sit for 5 minutes. Okay? Now, of course, in the video, I'm not going to wait 5 minutes. So we're going to pretend that we've waited the 5 minutes, and now we're going to wash the slide. Now, do you guys see what I don't have on is gloves? I decided not to waste them. So I'm washing it off. Okay, I'm rinsing. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about with the bacteria is one of the bacteria that we're using, the Mycobacterium genus, they're very, very thick, sticky cells because of the mycolic acid. So when you go to get them off the media the first time, you're going to get a real clump of them. And remember, when you take something from a solid, you add a drop of water first. So when you go to take the Mycobacterium off the solid, you're going to get a loop full of it and kind of spread it around in the water to really break it up, because you'll have it all stuck together. Also remember, when you're taking from a solid, to never gouge the media, because you don't want to be staining media, you want to be staining cells, okay? So let me go back. I'm sorry I got ahead of myself there. So I rinsed with my water, okay? So I did the Carbol Fusion, rinsing with my water. Now I'm going to decolorize with acid alcohol for a minute, okay? And I don't have much in here, but here's the acid alcohol. So I'm going to put it on there, and instead of washing it off immediately, like I did with the ethanol for the gram stain, I'm going to let it go for a minute, okay? So our minute has passed, and then I'm going to rinse it off. Okay, and then it's, the next is a counter stain with methylene blue. If you remember, we use methylene blue for our simple stain, so in this case it's going to be the counter stain. So you just put it on for 60 seconds, and after it's sat for 60 seconds, then we're going to rinse it off. So the actual procedure itself, putting on the primary stain, rinsing with water, doing the decolorizing, rinsing with water, and the counter stain is very similar to the gram stain. One thing that we don't put on this stain is a mordant like we did with the gram stain, which was the iodine. Okay, so then we're going to blot it dry with our paper towel. And we're ready to look at it under the microscope. Now, as we do prepare these, like I said, you're going to want to be very efficient. So this is one of the 4 stains that we're going to be doing today.